Hi guys, I am finally doing it. 5 months later, I'm going to sit down and talk about Parker's birth story. This is a video that I've been wanting to do since before I was even pregnant. I've always wanted to do a birth story video, just basically for myself, honestly, so that I can look back on it. But also, in case you're out there Googling birth stories like I used to do when I was pregnant and before I was pregnant and curious about, what that process is like. I'm going to try to remember as much as possible, but it was 5 months ago and yeah, I don't remember it play by play. Try to remember as much as possible, but it was 5 months ago and yeah, I don't remember it play by play. I have so much respect for any woman and every woman who gives birth vaginally with or without the help of, epidural or drugs or, anything like that. Like, if you had a baby come out of you, no matter how you had that baby come out of you, C-section, not C-section, home birth, whatever, you are strong and I support you and I think that's awesome, and however you want to do it, I'm with it. But hear me when I say that I knew, my whole life I knew that a vaginal natural birth was not for me. That was not something I wanted to do. I felt like I couldn't do it. I don't know if I know physically you're supposed to be able to do it, but mentally I just did not think I could. And I still stand by that. But anyway, so I didn't want that. I wanted a C-section. It was scheduled for the day that I turned 39 weeks, which was April 29th. And I was really confident the entire time that Parker was going to come early. I just really felt it. I felt like he was frustrated in there and that he wanted out, and from early on I could just tell he was not comfortable. He was kicking, he was really low, and I just knew he was going to come out early. And so I asked for the earliest date possible for my C-section, which was the day he turned 39. The day I turned 39 weeks pregnant. So anyway, it was booked for then, and he was head down and dropped, like, see, this is the stuff that I wish I wrote down because I don't know how many weeks he was, but it was a long time. It was multiple midwife appointments where he was in position, ready to go. So I was wondering if I'd make it to 39 weeks. Sure enough, the night before my scheduled C-section, I started getting contractions that were really close together, and I basically had them all night, getting more and more intense. And so I was up a lot of the night just kind of timing them and kind of wondering, are these Braxton Hicks, is this false labor, or is this the real deal? But I wasn't really worried about it because I knew that either way, Parker was gonna be born in the morning. So, I didn't call my midwife, I didn't really do anything. I just kind of thought, well, we'll find out tomorrow when I get to the hospital. And my water wasn't broken or anything like that, so I just wasn't worried about it. So my mother-in-law was staying on our property in her trailer, and so I was texting her in the morning saying, like, so I think I'm going into labor. And so she came inside and we were talking about that, and she's like, well, get ready, like, be ready to go in case you have to go to the hospital earlier. But so then I went in to tell my husband that this was happening, and I guess he had an alarm set for what time he had to get up to drive us to the hospital. And I wake him up and I said to him, just so you know, I've been having contractions all night. I think that, you know, they're getting closer together. I think that it's actually the real deal. And he looked at me, and then he looked at his clock, and then he said to me, well, I've got 5 more minutes of blissful sleep left, so... And then just put his head back down on the pillow and went back to sleep. So I was like, okay, glad everybody's really concerned. So I packed my hospital bag, and oh, and I was determined to not look horrible in the pictures at the birth, which is funny because I still looked horrible, but I was like, no, like I'm gonna go full cake face, like I'm gonna be painted. And so I'm like up, like putting on my mascara and putting on like full face foundation and powder and blush and like the whole 9 yards. I even considered curling my hair, but didn't do that. And so I was just, you know, I was getting ready because I wanted to look good in the photos. Spoiler alert, I did not. But the effort was there. So yeah, so then he got up and we drove to my parents' house. My parents were going to look after our dog for us while we were staying in the hospital. So we dropped my dog off there, and then we drove to the hospital. And so I went to check into the hospital, and they said that they didn't have me on the list for the day of surgery. And after a long run around, it was just because they had my surgery booked under my maiden name and not my married name, but then they had all my charts and my wristbands and everything on my married name, so there was like a huge confusion, and that happened. And then I got a private room, which I was really worried I wouldn't get a private room, but I did get one, and they put me in the room, and I just remember that the whole day, just literally up until the point of me having surgery, I kept waiting for my anxiety to kick in. Like, if you know me, I am a hugely anxious person. Like, I've always had anxiety in the smallest of scenarios. And so, of all the times in my life to have anxiety, to have a panic attack, you would think it was the day that, you know, my life was literally changing forever. I was becoming a mother, having a baby, and having my stomach ripped open and put back together. Like, you'd think that would give me anxiety, but I just want to say, like, I'm not going to say that I had no concerns, but I was really chill. And even and thinking back on it to this day, I'm like, wow, out of all the things that you don't handle well, you handled that well. But yeah, like I kept waiting for the anxiety to kick in. I was waiting for it. I was like, okay, here we go. Like, hit me with it. Just hit me with the anxiety. It's gonna come, and it didn't. So I don't know why. My theory is that, you know, after 9 months of being pregnant, I was just kind of done. And I think that most mothers feel that way by the end. Is like, you're so uncomfortable, you're so huge, you're in pain, you're sick, you're, you know, all those things, and you just kind of just over it. You want to meet your baby, you want the next part of life to begin. So maybe that's why on the day of the C-section I was just so like, all right, like, let's do this. So yeah, so Rory, my husband, and I were in my private room, and we were just kind of waiting. They gave me a gown to put on, and so I went in the bathroom to put the gown on, and that's when I realized that I was bleeding. And so I guess I was losing my mucus plug, and so in my head I was like, okay, I don't want to tell anybody because I've got a C-section scheduled in 2 hours. The baby's coming out anyway. Like, we're good. There's no need to alarm anyone. There's no need to do tests. There's no need to, you know, poke and prod around anywhere. Like, let's just... Baby's coming out. We're good. We don't need to say anything. So I put my robe on, or my gown on, and I walk back into the bed, and Rory is sleeping in a chair. He's already napping again. And I kind of wake him up a bit, and I lean in real close to him, and I whisper so that nobody else hears me, even though nobody else was in the room. And I said to him, "I'm bleeding." And he goes, "What? Like, you need to tell somebody, you need to tell somebody, you need to tell somebody." And I was like, no need. We don't need to, you know, alarm anyone. No need to tell anyone. And he said to me, "If you don't tell somebody, I'm going to tell somebody." And I said, "Okay, fine. I will tell my midwife when she gets here." So anyway, in the meantime, I'm still having my contractions. I'm just sitting in this room waiting. And then a nurse comes in to give me my IV. Out of all the things, the surgery, the recovery, the whatever, the thing that freaked me out the most was the IV, because I hate IVs. I don't even know why. I don't even mind needles. It's just, for some reason, the IV is really what gets me. So anyway, the nurse comes in to do it, and she looks at my arm, and she's saying, like, "Oh, I don't like your veins. Thanks. I'm gonna get somebody else to do it." Okay, fair enough. So she goes and gets a different nurse. That nurse comes in, she looks at my arm, she's examining it, and she's like, "Oh, I don't like your veins. Yeah, oh, I don't like that. I'm gonna get the head nurse." Okay, so then the head nurse comes in, she looks at it, and she goes, "Oh, we're gonna have to call in the IV team." Now, I didn't know what an IV team was. So when someone said, "We're gonna call in the IV team," my mental image was like 3-4 people coming in, really intense, like doing some weird stuff to my arm. Like, I don't know. When you say team, I imagine a team. But no, it was not a team. It was just a really cranky, pissed off lady in a cart. That's it. She rolled into my room and she was telling me how she shouldn't have to do this. This isn't her job. And I'm thinking in my head, you're the IV team and this is an IV, so if this isn't your job, what is? But, you know, she's about to stab me with a needle, so I'm not gonna, you know, say anything. So I'm like, "Oh yeah, like, I'm so sorry, I don't know. Like, 2 people looked at my arm, 3 people looked at my arm, and they didn't like my veins, so they called you, like, sorry." And she's just telling me, like, this is not my job, and anyway. So, eventually, she got my IV in, and said that everybody else who didn't do it on my arm was a wuss, and this whole thing about how it wasn't her job. And to this day, I still don't know what her job is, if not doing IVs as the IV team. But anyway, so my IV's in, and then my midwife shows up, and she's all dressed, prepped for surgery, and I said to her that I was bleeding because I told Rory that I would tell him. And she had the same reaction as me, which was, well, you know, baby's coming out in like an hour anyway, so we're good. So I was glad about that. I didn't want anybody poking and prodding me and testing me and whatever. So I'm just lying there waiting. Rory's sleeping. I'm lying there waiting. And then we get the news that there was an emergency C-section, so mine has been pushed back, which pushed it back 2 hours. So they said, "You're going to be waiting for 2 hours." Fine, fair enough. So another 2 hours pass. I'm just like Snapchatting people, texting people, because at this point everybody assumes that I'm in surgery, and I'm like, no, I'm still chilling. And honestly, I didn't mind the fact that it was pushed back. I was comfortable just lying there in the bed resting, you know, minus the contractions. I was fine with that. The only thing that was kind of an issue was the fact that I was fasting and I wasn't allowed water or anything, and I hadn't had anything to eat or drink since like I think 8 o'clock the night before. So I was starting to feel really faint and just really hungry. So that was really my biggest complaint, and if that's my biggest complaint, then it sounds pretty good to me. So then I'm getting ready, like, okay, like it's been 2 hours, like we're going in, we're gonna do this. And then my midwife comes in again, and she's like, yeah, sorry, another emergency C-section, you've been pushed back another 2 hours. So that was fine. I waited another 2 hours, still just lying in bed, hanging out, talking to people. And then finally, it's time, and they come in to get me. Now, I thought that they would wheel me in my bed to the operating room, but that didn't happen. They just walked into my room and said, like, okay, come with us. So I'm in this robe, like barefoot, and the robe they gave me was ripped. So the tie up at the back was ripped off, so like I had no way of covering the back of me. So I'm just like, oh, okay, you want me to walk through the hospital to like the other end and into the room, and I'm like barefoot and naked? Okay, cool. So then Rory made me a little house coat out of a second robe, so I was wearing a robe backwards to cover myself. And so anyway, we walk down the hallway, and we go to the, I don't know what to call it, this prep station outside the OR. And they had me put on a little hairnet and then just walk into the operating room. And I just remember how cold it was. It was so cold and surreal. It was so surreal to me. I'd never been in an operating room before, and so it was like being in a movie. Like, I don't know, it was so weird. It was like it wasn't even happening to me, and it felt so odd that I was just walking into it. But I was still so calm, and I was like, okay, the anxiety is gonna hit me now, right? Oh, are you falling asleep? Are you falling asleep? Like, the anxiety's gotta hit me now. Like, it's happening now, so it's gotta hit me now. No, for whatever reason, still calm. So I sit up on the table, and I don't know, they're just making small talk with me, like probably trying to keep me calm. And then I was a bit nervous for the spinal block because you know, you can't move during it, and I was just really worried that, because I didn't know what it would feel like, that it would be really painful and I'd jolt up or something and paralyze myself. But no, it was really weird. They had me sit on the bed and then hunch over, and they said, oh, like, it's gonna hurt, blah 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 blah. But actually, when I didn't honestly feel it really. Honestly, what I felt was liquid running down my back. So I don't know if that was blood or some sort of fluid. I don't really think I want to know what that was running down my back, but that's what I felt. It's just something cold running down my back. And then I remember the anesthesiologist saying to me, okay, you're gonna start to feel your feet go numb, and then it's gonna like slowly move up your legs, and then, you know, eventually up to your chest you're going to be numb. And before he's even done saying this sentence, like, I can't feel my entire body, like from the chin down, like I was completely numb. And they're telling me like, okay, so swing your legs up and lie down on the table, and I'm like, can't. I can't. Sorry. You're gonna have to do that because I'm completely numb already. And the doctor's like, oh, you took really well to that. And I'm like, yeah, I can't feel my body. So they they moved my body, so I'm lying on the table. And I vividly, this is one thing I do vividly remember, is that, like, you know how without moving your body, you can kind of like clench your internal muscles and feel something. Like, you could clench your stomach muscles, and you can feel that inside you. I just remember that I was trying to see if I could, like I was trying to move and all that, so I was trying to clench my muscles, like my stomach muscles, or like, you know what I mean, and I couldn't even feel, like not only could I not move my body, but I couldn't even feel the muscles that it would take to move my body, if that makes any sense. And that was a really, really weird sensation, and that was kind of like, it was a little claustrophobic, like claustrophobic in my own body, but nothing too bad still, like that didn't make me nervous, because at the same time it was like, if you're gonna have somebody cutting you open, reaching inside you and pulling a baby out, yeah, you're probably best to not feel anything, so it wasn't a concern. So anyway, that happened, and then like they put this drape up so I couldn't see anything, and I was basically just this little floating head. I was just a little floating head, because I couldn't feel my body and I couldn't see my body, so really all I was a head. And yeah, and like I don't really remember a lot of what went on next. Just them talking to each other, and I was kind of tuning it out, honestly. I said to everybody, I was like, hey, like, I want to know what you're doing. No need to narrate, no need to keep me in the loop, you know, you don't need to put a mirror up, I don't need to see anything, like, you just do you, and I'll just be here, and you guys talk to me when the baby's out. So then at some point, I look up, and Rory came in the room, and he was all in his gear too, and he was sitting beside me, beside my little floating head. He was just saying supportive things, so I just assumed that his mom must have given him some sort of pep talk beforehand, and like given him some stock phrases to say to like calm me down, because nothing that he was saying was, you know, things he would usually say to me. You know my husband, you know that he's not, he doesn't have the best bedside manner. He's not super, he's not gonna give you a pep talk. He's just gonna tell it to you like it is. You know, so if I was like, you know, am I okay? He would be like, nah, like you're bleeding out. You know, he would tell me that. So someone must have told him like, don't say that. Just be like, yeah, you're good. So he's beside me, supporting me, and I'm just lying there like, you know, I can't feel anything. I remember hearing Parker crying for the first time, which made me cry, because, you know, you want to hear your baby cry. That's probably the only time in your life that you're like, please cry, because you want to know they're okay, right? So he cried, and then I cried. And I didn't see him at all. Rory went around and saw him at the little weighing station, and I couldn't see him because I'm still the floating head. And this is when it got a bit intense for me, because for some reason, them taking me apart, that didn't bother me, but them putting me back together was really, really uncomfortable. Just the pressing and the pulling and the, you know, all that good stuff. And I had somebody doing their first C-section. Like, whoever was there, it was their first time, and there was somebody shadowing them, and like all of a sudden I heard the person shadowing them go, "No! Don't cut that!" And I'm like, cut what? Like, what's going on behind that curtain, folks? And nobody, you know, came to me and said like, you're good still, everything's fine. So I was just kind of hoping that I wasn't gonna find out later that something horrible had happened to me. But then they did bring Parker over beside me, and I got to meet him, and if I remember to, and I'm smart enough, I'll try to insert a clip of that right here. But if not, just imagine this baby, a little smaller, wrapped up beside a floating head.
If you get over this angle where I can look at these funny grimaces he's doing.
Oh, he's gonna make faces like me? Yeah.
Baby faces are the best. They always look so serious.
They do.
Looked so much like Rory when he was born. And then I remember that, I don't know, I started to feel really, really wonky, probably because people had their hands in my body. And so I said to the anesthesiologist that I was starting to feel a bit sick, because you're supposed to tell them that so they can give you, I think, gravel. And so I told him I was feeling sick, meaning like, hit me with that gravel. But instead he goes to me, oh, you want me to knock you out? You want to go unconscious? And I'm like, no, I just want gravel. And he's like, you want to go unconscious? Like, you want me to knock you out? And I'm like, no, I just want gravel. And my husband's like, she just wants some gravel. And he's like, I can knock you out. You just gotta say something. And I said, no, I don't. No, I don't want to be knocked out. I just don't feel very well because people have their hands in me, you know? And he goes, if you don't tell me right now what you want, I'm gonna knock you out. And my husband and I are like, okay, like, I don't want gravel, we're good, like, nothing, good, nothing, I don't want anything, just leave me alone. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, I might vomit, but at least I'm still conscious. I just wanted some gravel, but that's fine. And then they were done, and they lifted my body off the table onto a stretcher, maybe? Who knows? And that was a weird sensation because I could see my body moving, but I couldn't feel my body moving other than my little floating head. And then they took me into recovery, which I remember very little of. It felt like I was only in there for 5 minutes. Apparently I was in there for 2 hours. So, you know, the memory's patchy there. I remember taking a picture of Rory holding Parker. I remember taking a picture of the midwife holding Parker on my phone, which I'm really surprised I was coherent enough to do, because the pictures of me taken in that room, I am rough. Like, I look the worst I've ever looked. I looked like roadkill. Like, so the fact that I was out there, like, taking pictures, like, shocks me. And anyway, yeah, they, like, cleaned me up and whatnot, and then they were gonna wheel me back into my room. And I remember being wheeled down the hallway and seeing all these people there to see me, like, mostly, I think it was, like, Rory's family, my family, or whatever. And I remember that gave me, like, intense anxiety, because, and I want to say because, but I don't really know why. I think it was just, like, I was in a state of shock, and I felt, like, really crowded. And so I came into the room, and I just remember I just didn't want anybody to come near me or touch me. My parents, they came into the room, and they came over to see me, and they tried to hug me. I don't really remember this, but I was told later that I wouldn't let anyone hug me or touch me. Probably just because, once again, I was a floating head, and that's a really weird space to be in. But yeah, Parker was born 7 pounds 11 ounces. I'd love to tell you the length, but I don't remember. And it is written down, but he's asleep on me, so I don't want to get up and look. But he was little and perfect, and I was so happy. We were all so happy, and I could tell you about that night and my postpartum recovery journey or whatever, perhaps in another video. Even if nobody else watches these videos, even if nobody else cares, I know that one day I'm gonna care. I care right now. Like, I want to look back and reflect on my motherhood journey with Parker and my future children and all of that. So I'm gonna try to sit down and make another video. I don't know what the next one will be. Maybe it'll be my postpartum recovery, C-section story, I don't know. But for now, I'm going to get off of here, and I guess I'm gonna find a place for Parker to nap other than on me. Thank you for watching and listening if you did. I will see you guys in my next video. Hopefully it's not in another 5 months. Okay, Bye, guys.